Hello friends, my name is Shivam from DevOps Schools and I will help you to enable your learning process in various technologies of DevOps, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data and many more. This is our initiative to help you by sharing multiple tutorials and videos. And if you want any specific tutorials or any particular topic, then please do comment in the below comment section and I will help you with it. Also, please subscribe to our premium services on YouTube, which will give you access to more content and videos to enhance your knowledge about all these topics. Also, if you want me to help you with regards to the online trainings and classroom sessions by our qualified trainers, then please do write me at contact@devopsschool.com. Thank you.
So our today's agenda is to understand what is a process called as routing, what are the different routing protocols which are available, what are the different type of routing is also available. Okay, so you can say type of routing and how we can configure these different routing methods in our environment. Okay, so first of all, understand what is the routing. Now, if I give you the typical definition, it is a simple thing. A routing is a process of forwarding the packets from one network to another. In a very simple language, routing is a process of forwarding one network. We have it, we do have another network, and routing is a process of forwarding the data from one network to another network. This is the first you can say this is the first function of the routing process. Second function would be choosing the best path from a routing table. Now we will see what is the routing table is and how he is going to choose the best part out of that particular routing tables. Now it's completely depend on what type of protocols which we can use while doing the routing process. Based on that matrix, he is going to choose the best path from the routing table. Correct? So these are the two basic functions of routing. Routing is nothing but a process of transfer, or you can simply goes to technical perspective. Routing is a process to take the packet from one network and give it to another network. The second function of the routing would be to choose the best path from the routing table based on what is the type of routing protocol which you are using and based on the matrix which is available for that particular protocol. Correct? So this is what we are going to learn. Now we are going to learn about layer 3 device called as router, which actually works on 32-bit logical address. That means your IP address. Correct? Most of the time, basic routing protocols are available for smaller organization, but if you go with a higher organization, we are using different type of protocols in order to do the same process. Then, what are the type of routings are available? Okay, you can say type of routing. Now, there are three major type of routings are available. The first routing method is called as static routing. Okay, second method is called as default routing. Third method would call it as dynamic routing. So these are the three type of routings are available. That means router can do the routing with the help of these three methods. Correct? Now the static routing is the one which we were using long time back. This is a very fantastic routing method for smaller networks. Correct? However, this routing method is very fast because every route. Now, what is the function of the routing? To find out the best path from routing table. In static routing method, everything is manual. Everything is manual means system administrator will define the best route, and it will tell the best route to the router by entering the some set of command, and that command name is called as IP. Correct. IP route is a command which we are using in order to set up static routing. In static routing, everything is done by the administrator. Means he will choose the best path and he will inform the router, okay, this is the best path of the router. Whatever network which you want to create it, everything would be created manually by your static router. So everything would be configured manually over here. Correct. Now let's understand what other things which we can see in static routing. Now, one thing it is configured that administrator needs to configure manual. Correct. Manual configurations are required. Okay, in terms of best route. Correct. In second term would be in static routing, you are supposed to know destination network ID. This is mandatory. Okay, I will tell you what this particular thing is. Correct. I told you it is very secured because it is managed by your own administrator and very fast. Correct. Used for very small networks. Okay, and manual changes are required if any network goes down. That means if I elaborate, any changes happened in the network, manually changes are required. Correct. So understand what exactly the static routing is with the help of a diagram. Okay, and we will see how we can do it. Now, I just created a sample diagram to save our time because there are a lot of practicals which we need to do it. So I prepared few things before I start my session today. So let's say static routing, what is required? Everything would be manually configured on the router. For example, if I have a small network, okay, small network means up to 5 and 10 routers in my environment, and if I choose the static routing method in order to do the routing, now what he's going to do, my main purpose is this is my one network, this is my another network, I want to transfer data from one network to another network. Now this could be my some different office. Correct. Maybe that this office is located in Hyderabad, this office is located in Chennai, and I want the communication to be happen. Now, practically here in between these two router, practically we do have internet, correct? But currently for simulation purpose, we are not using internet. We are actually using a serial cable connection like a normal. A serial connection is actually used for WAN. The same connection we are connected, but with different network over here. Technically and practically, we are supposed to connect it to the WAN network. So in real life, it could be something like this. This is my Hyderabad office. Okay, this is my Hyderabad office. So it might be connected to some internet service provider. That internet service provider is connected to the internet. This office also have some internet service provider network. and it is also connected to the internet. So this is how it could be available in our day-to-day life, but for our lab session we cannot emulate this internet. So what purpose we do have it? We are using a serial connection from here to here, correct? And we have separate network for serial connection. Even in our real life we do have a complete different network for my entire this connectivity, correct? The same thing which we have emulated, I do have a single network which I have created between these, correct? So this is what we are going to understand for our lab perspective. In real life it might be different, remember that, correct? In real life we do have internet connectivity. Here what I did, I created one network separately in order to connect these two things. So I'm just emulating that these 2 points are actually in the same network, so these are able to communicate with each other. In real life these both the points are connected to the internet, so public interfaces are there, so obviously public interfaces are able to communicate with each other, correct? So this is the only change which we are done in the lab and practical sessions for trainings. In real life, it is completely different. It is a WAN connection. We are connected in between these two, correct? Now, what is happening in a static routing? Everything is manually configured. For example, if I know there is a network over here, okay, this is my local area connection. Let's say I want to communicate from this computer, from this local area connection to this computer from this local area connection, correct? I need to configure what? Routing for that. And the method which we are using is called as static routing. So I need to go to this router and configure a route that how can I reach to this particular thing manually, correct? So it's very simple. Now I need to configure the route, come down over here. It will come down, but I have to make sure that this is a static routing. I need to configure this router as well to once again static route to be configured over here, because I need to give the response. If I configure the static routing only on this router, we can send the response over here, but that response should not come back because if this router is not configured. So in static routing we have to make sure that everything needs to be configured manually, correct? Everything, every best route. Now in this case, for example, let's take this second case to understand better. In static routing, if I come to know that, okay, this is the static routing method is there, so I need to tell this particular router, if you would like to reach this network, you need to configure this, correct? Even if I would like to reach to this network, you need to configure this too, correct? Similarly, if I would like to configure this back, I need to go here, configure the static route. If I go here, I want to configure the static route for here. I want to configure the static route for here. So you can see every route, whatever route which we are going to use, every routes which we need to put it inside the router. So if the routing is set in the static mode, every route administrator need to decide it and he need to put that route into the router, correct? Maybe possibility is sometime what happened in static routing method, what is the problem? Let's say I do have some another router over here. For example, I do have one more router over here, okay, and it is connected over here and it is connected over here, correct? So I do have two different paths in order to reach from this router to this router, correct? Either I should go from this or either I should go from this, correct? So I need to configure both the path to this particular router because it's manual configuration, correct? I said this would be the best path, correct? And this is also a best path, but I need to inform each and every router what are the different best path in order to reach the destination. Correct? Now the problem will happen over here by any given point of a time. If this particular link is broken, means my router is down, network is down, I don't know. But if it is broken,
Hey viewers, our Mastery in DevOps engineering program can help you to hone the skills necessary to succeed in high-level DevOps positions. So, what are you waiting for? Enroll now and earn certification that show you are keeping pace with today's technical roles and requirements. Contact info is mentioned in the video sidebars and in the description box. Book your seats for the upcoming batches now.
then the administrator needs to understand that this link is broken and you are supposed to remove this particular path from your router because this link is broken right now and you need to divert your traffic from your this network. So this switching of one network, if it is broken, to find out another network and transfer the data to alternate path would be also done as manual process. It is not automatic process. Correct? So that's the reason static routing method, it's only compatible for smaller network. It is not really possible for very high or huge number of environments. Correct? Because you can see everything I need to configure manually. I need to configure each and every route from this destination to this destination, this destination to this destination, this destination to this destination, and plus every router I need to configure that. Correct? So this is manual process. Plus the problem is that if any links goes down, router is not aware of it. Correct? The best path needs to be configured by that particular router. If there is a new path and if I not configured it, and if the main best path goes down, I need to configure the best path over here. Or I need to configure every possible best path in order to reach to the router. Means from your target to the destination. So this is the method, we can call it as static routing, where everything needs to be configured manually. Okay, I will show you how we can configure the things manually. Now, this is the first time you took the router, so I will show you how you can do the practicals with the router. Remember, there are two important thing before you create the router and before you actually start routing practices. Correct? Now, in order to connect this serial WAN, there is some additional steps which you guys needs to do. I will show you. I will take some router, carefully look what changes which I am doing it. Okay. Okay, I took these two routers. Now, this is only lab purpose and we are using serial interface. Nowadays, serial interface is also not available for most of the router. You will be getting Ethernet interface directly for your WAN connection. So remember that also. But for lab purpose, we are using a serial interface. I told you serial interface is nothing but a WAN interface, which is something which we can use for 16 pin or 26 pin, which is a smart serial port is available now, that or smart jack is available. Correct? Now if I took these two routers, if I would like to connect these two routers together, now below connection is very simple. We are taking the normal Ethernet cable because that is our local area connection LAN. I will take the Ethernet cable and straight away connect it to the switch, no problem. But if I want to connect router to router, okay, I do have option that I can connect it to the Ethernet cable. Okay, but we need to understand each and everything properly. That's why we are using it with the serial cable. Correct? So how do I add the serial cable? Now if I go to this router, carefully check because this is very important. Otherwise, router to router, the serial connection which I have created, you will not be able to see that. Correct? So there is a power button. turn off the power. There is a module called as HWC2T. This is a module for your serial. This is a smart serial port which we have with a 26 pin. You just need to drag this particular thing and put it into your router. It is a modular router. Okay. Now by default, actually when you purchase any router in real life, you will get a serial port. There is a couple of serial ports are available. But for lab connection, I need to connect this serial port as a module. But you have to make sure that you have to turn off the router, attach the serial port and turn back on. Okay. You can turn back particular on. Okay. It's not on. So I can click it. Okay. It is turned on right now. You need to turn it on. So this is the additional step which you need to perform on the router. Correct. I will show you one more time with another router, this router. I clicked on it. I will go to this power. I click on it. Currently it's turned off. HWC WIC2, drag it, put it over here and turn it back on. Correct. Go to the command line. You will see your router will start booting. Correct. Then you are able to connect these two routers with the help of serial cable now. Okay. So I will take the wire from here to here. It is possible. But if you do not do that, by default, he will choose the Ethernet port in order to connect the wire. Correct. But Ethernet port is typically made for your local area connection. So keep that particular port available only for the local area connection. So this is the same topology which I have created in order to understand static. Correct. Static routing needs to be configured manually. That is the first drawback. Second drawback is what? Every alternate best path in order to reach from source to destination, I need to configure every best path to my routers manually. Otherwise, what happen if the best path which you have configured, if it is goes down, once again administrator needs to find out alternate best path and you need to choose that. Very fast and secure. Now the reason behind it, this is a protocol which is configured and managed by their network administrator. So they do have a full control on the behavior of that particular device. Correct. So that's why static routing is very fast, because your route is already defined by the router. Correct. So let's understand and find out how we can configure static routing with two routers and three routers together, because there is a slight difference in the multiple router method. In a two router method, it's very simple, but if you are going for multiple router method, understand what strategy they have changed. Okay. Now whenever you are configuring the static routing method, there is another point we discussed, that that particular router should know the destination network ID. That means before I configure the static routing with the help of IP route command, I should know the destination. This is my destination. This is my source. I want to reach from here to here. So I should know the network ID for this entire network. So according to this, my IP address is 192.168.100.1. So I'm using the 192.168.100.0 family. So what is my network ID? 192.168.100.1. So this is compulsory. This is mandatory in a static routing, that I should know the destination IP address. I should know where I want to reach. Correct. Because based on this particular information, I am going to configure the static routing method on the router side. So this is compulsory. Remember that I should know the destination LAN ID, or you can say the destination network which I want to reach. I should know the network ID of that particular destination network. Correct. This is very, very important. So let's configure a static routing and understand how we can configure the router as well, because this is my local interface, correct? And this interface, which is locally connected, it will be act like a gateway for my computer. So I need to go to this interface of the router, configure this IP address, correct? And this IP address would be the gateway for all the devices which is connected to the local area connections, correct? Same approach we are going to do it for over here. This would be the local area connection gateway, or a gateway for the LAN which we are connected to the second route, correct? So we should know how to configure the IP addressing for that particular interfaces, for local interfaces, as well as this interface we can call it as a serial interfaces. So we should know how to configure the serial interfaces first, then we should know how to configure the local interfaces first, then we will check whether this computer is able to reach my gateway, because this is the network for that router which is directly connected on the local area connection side. Am I right? And this is also be directly connected, so it is very good, no problem. But this router does not know how to reach to this router. He don't know. Even this router don't know how to reach to this network. I don't know. So we are going to inform the router how to reach to this destination, how to reach this destination, and with the help of routing protocol, we can do that. Once you have entered that, then my routing process would be started. And if my routing process is started, means the data from one network to another network would be transferred. Is that clear? What is static routing is? If you have any doubts, you can ask me, because this is again a very important concept you should know of. 90% people are actually struggling in a static routing with 3 router techniques. Actually 2 router techniques is very simple, correct? We will see how we can configure this, correct? So I want to configure this interface. Now this interface is nothing but, I just want to make sure that it is gigabyte 0/0. Okay, I don't need to configure on the switch side at this moment of time. We just need to configure on the router side. So what I will do, I will click on this router, go to the command line interface. Okay, fine. Okay, I will do this. Now this is a setup mode, so I don't want to do that. Okay, I will go to the enable. Command are same to go to the enable from normal user mode to the privilege mode. Config T. Now this is not a switch. Yesterday we were talking about switch only. Now today we are going to talk about only the concept related router. So you can see I'm inside the router configuration mode. Now what I need to do first, I need to set up the necessary interface IP address which we need to configure. So the gigabyte 0/0 is the interface which is connected to my switch. So what I will do, I will say interface gigabyte 0/0. So I'm inside the gigabyte interface 0/0. And what is the IP address? I would say IP address 192.168.1.1. And I need to provide the subnet mask. This is a class C subnet mask. Enter. I need to provide the command called as no shut, because by default these ports are down. Okay, if I fire the command no shut, then only it lights become green. So I configure this local interface side, no problem. Then even my serial interface is also there on the router. The serial 030, it's also connected to this router. And for this serial interface, we would like to give the IP address of 10.0.0.1, which is a class A IP address. So I will go to this router. I will exit out of it and I will say interface serial 030.
Hey viewers, trying to get into DevSecOps? Enroll for our DevSecOps certified professional programs and earn the certification that shows you are fit for these technical roles and requirements. Contact info is mentioned in the video sidebars and in the description box. Book your seats for the upcoming batches now.
Press enter. IP address 10.0.0.1. And 255.255.255. Enter. I will say no shut. Now, if I say no shut over here, he will not do any activity because the other side has to be no shut. Then only these two will be synchronized properly. So this part is confirmed. Now we need to put this IP address as a gateway of this computer, which I already done it. So I don't need to put that particular information over there. Now let's go back to this router and configure the necessary information. Enable conft. Once again, just confirm where in which port it is connected. It is connected to the port number gigabyte 0/0. It is also connected to that. So let's go to that interface and type the IP address which we have decided in order to go for it is 100.1. So it is IP address 192.168.100.1. Subnet mask 255.255.255.0. Enter. And I will say no shut. So this interface has been configured. Okay. This interface is configured. Now let's configure this interface. Now make sure these two IP address should be in the same family because we want to emulate the network connection over here. So remember. So S30. So once again, I would exit out of it. Interface serial 030. Correct. And what is the IP address? IP address would be 10.0. Subnet mask. Okay, I would say exit. Show IP interface brief. Okay, so both the IP address is configured. Okay, but we have not shut, no shut command is not appeared over here. So I will say serial 030. I will say no shut. The moment I said no shut, both will become green because the other one which we have already configured as no shut, but I told you both needs to be synchronized. Correct. So this is the way we can configure the interface on the devices with the help of the simulator. Correct. Now this is somewhat almost same in the case of your practical routers and your particular practical switches. Correct. But you need to make sure that every possible thing which you are configured, it has to be manually in the case of static. Okay, so this is the common thing for every routing protocol that we need to configure the interface. Correct. Now let's see, we would like to configure the static routing. Correct. Now if I go to this router and I want to go from this router to this router, that means whatever network which is the part of this network, they want to communicate with this network with the help of static route method. I need to tell my router which destination you want to go. Okay, because I should know the destination. That is the most important point in static routing. Correct? I should know the destination network ID, the subnet mask of the destination network ID, and the next hop. So if I say what is the command which we can use for static routing, that is a command is iproot destination network ID and destination subnet mask means whatever subnet mask which we have for the destination network, and then next hop. Next hop IP address means the IP address of the next router where you can get inside. Okay. So in our case, this particular case, if I would like to go from this network to this network, my destination would be 192.168.100.0. This is the destination network ID they are talking about. Right? So my command should be something like this: IP route 192.168.100.0. Subnet mask is as usual class C. And what is my next hop with respect to this network? So according to my this network, 10.0.0.2 is my next route. Okay, or this is the router which I can go inside from this particular network. So 10.0.0.2 is the next hop router where my traffic is actually goes inside this particular router. So I should say 10.0.0.2. Now this cannot be one way because I can send the traffic from here to here. I should get the response from here to here. So once again, I need to configure the routing over here as well. Otherwise, if you do the one-way routing, it is not going to help you at all. Correct? So once again, IP route. Now I'm considering this router and I'm doing the exact same static routing with respect to this destination now. So destination network ID is 192.168.1.0. Subnet mask would be same. Okay. And what is the next hop with respect to this network? 10.0.0.1 would be my next hop. Okay. So these are the two commands which you need to execute on both the router, and that will confirm that our static routings are configured. So currently I will just show you currently these two networks are not able to communicate with each other. So I am inside 192.168.1.100. So if I go to ping 192.168.1.100, it is able to ping because this is a part of local area connection. Now if I try to ping this 100.100, which is completely different network, it is saying destination host unreachable. That means my request is initiated. Correct? The destination says whether it's available in local area network or not. If the packet is generated from this computer, the computer know the destination IP address. Correct? This package goes to the switch. Switch will find out whether you want to communicate with local area connection or whether you want to communicate outside the network. So it is already predefined by your computer that whatever network you want to communicate, actually that is not the part of your network at all. So my switch will forward that request to interface of the router. But which interface of the router? This local interface of the router. Now currently this local interface itself telling me that okay, you are trying to send a request to go outside the router, but unfortunately there is no route available on the router we cannot say you are not able to go online, but he says I'm going to the gateway. That means I'm going here, and he's saying I don't have anything, I don't have a route. That's the reason you're getting destination host unreachable problem over here. Correct? So reply is coming, but it is coming from the interface, local interface of the router, which is connected to that network. Okay. So let's go to this router and we will configure the static. Okay. So exit, this is a global configuration. Now I want to, this is my 192.168.1.1 network where we have configured that IP address. I will say IP interface brief. Okay, show is missing. So these IP addresses are configured on both the interfaces. I will say I want IP route to be configured for 192.168.100.0 network ID. This is my destination. Destination subnet mask. Okay. And the next hop address. That means 10.0.0.2. Enter. It's IP route, not route. Enter. Correct. So this way I have configured the static route. Now I have to configure the static route over here, otherwise the request will not get back over here. Correct. So I would say exit. I would say IP route. Which destination network I would like to go for it? 192.168.1.0 255. Okay. And what is the entry point or the next hop with respect to this network? It's 10.0.0.1. Correct? Press it. Okay. This is by mistake. I'm doing it. Now this is a habit actually. So you can see I have done it. Correct. Now this is interesting. Now I have configured with the help of this. Correct. Computer. Okay. Now initially it was saying destination host unreachable. Correct. Now if I try to ping it one more time, let's see what response we are getting right now. Okay, now you can see they both are able to communicate with each other. If I go to the router, I should see the IP routing table over here. I would say IP route, show IP route. These are the routes which are available. These 192.168.1.0 network, which is directly connected. 10.0.0.0 network is also connected over here. Currently, I know about 192.168.100.0 network. It is connected via 10.0.0.2. Correct. Same thing would be happen on this particular computer and this particular routing table information, that this is my destination, what is the definitely MAC address, what exactly here doing. Correct. So this is the first static routing method which we are supposed to do it. Correct. It's very simple. The only problem is here everything would be manually needs to be configured. Correct. So look at this particular diagram carefully and create the same topology with your simulator and let me know. I will give you 10 minutes to do this particular practical, because these practicals are very important to do it. So we have to make sure that you are following this. So I will give you 10 minutes. Okay, create this topology with the same IP addressing. Try to give the IP address to the interfaces and try to configure the routing mechanism with the help of static root mechanism. Correct? So take your time, 10 minutes are there. Start creating this topology for you. Okay, just inform me once you are done. Clear? At least static one, this particular topology, we can repeat the same topology for other routing processes as well, so that will save your time. So design once and we can use it multiple times. So I will give you 10 minutes to create this topology and routing. Okay, if you have any issues, I'm there. You can choose your IP addressing. There is not compulsory. Now here I type router. That's a mistake. IP route. IP route is a command which we can use to set up the static routing. So create this topology, create one static routing and understand. It will be the matter of 10 minutes. You would be able to create it. I hope you guys are able to access the labs. You are able to access the packet tracer as well. Okay, if you have done, we will discuss about the next topology. This is the static one, but slightly different. Now look at this strategy now. Okay, static routing in 3 routers. To be honest with you, more than 2 routers to be precise, because in the 2 routers we know what is my next hop. Now understand what's supposed to be happen in this particular scenario. Command is same, everything is same, but here is some sort of glitches over there. So wait for some time. Now look at into this session. I will give you enough time to create each and every routing related labs today, so don't worry about that. Let me finish this part so you will be able to understand what is a slight change. Correct? Now if I would like to create static routing for more than, correct,
Hey viewers, are you looking for formal training on SRE practices? Take our SRE program. This course will teach you how to successfully implement site reliability engineering in the modern day 24/7 services. Kickstart your SRE training today. Contact info is mentioned in the video sidebars and in the description box. Book your seats for the upcoming batches now.
two networks. There is a slight difference. Correct? Now in static routing, everything has to be configured by router. Now how routing lookup will happen, we will see that. Okay, now what exactly router will do? Router will always, any request which is coming over to the router will check the routing table, because as we can see in a layer 2 we do have a MAC address, and MAC address table would be referred by my switch in order to reach to the destination. Similarly, in routers do have a routing table, which we can see with the help of the command called as show IP table, correct, or show IP route. Some cases you can see the table like a format, or in Cisco devices show IP route command will tell you. So whenever router received any request to go outside, he will go and check his routing table. If he find out the best route to reach to the destination, because obviously he is going to read the destination IP address. If he come to know that okay, this is the destination IP address, and if he has the best route possible to go to the destination, then he will forward that packet on that particular path or that particular network. Correct? If he does not find out any route, as I told you, you got an error message, destination host unreachable. He will simply discard that particular traffic, by saying that I don't know the route. Correct? So this is the basic methodology of the routing. Now in this case, it is pretty simple. The first two routers are pretty simple. We have already done this. It is the same thing like this scenario. Correct? Now the only slight change would be done with this third router. If I want my first router should communicate with this router, correct? So what is my destination network? Destination network is 172.17.0.0. Subnet mask would be 255.255.0.0. And what would be my next hop with respect to this local area connection? My next hop would be 10.0.0.2. If I would like to come from here to here, it is the same case what we have previously done. I will go to this router and say IP route. My destination network is 172.16.0. Correct? My hop count or the next hop is 10.0.0.1. Correct? Now I want to configure this one. Correct? Let this network talk with this network and let this network talk with this network, vice versa. Correct? So what is my destination in this case? For this router, my destination would be 172.18.0.0. Subnet mask would be a class B subnet mask. But what is my next hop? My next hop would be this or this. Correct? This is interesting. My next hop would be 10.0.0.2 or 20.0.0.2. Correct? Any guesses? Which IP address should use? Okay, I said next hop. So my next hop for this particular network is 10.0.2. This is not my next hop. Similarly, with respect to this router, I need to configure the routing for this. I need to configure the routing for this, where my next hop would be this, not this. Correct? So you can see I configured this type of routing. So my next hop means my immediate router, not this router. This is why we are going to go for 3 router structure in a static routing. Correct? Now I will show you the 3 routing also. Command is same, everything is same. Correct? There is no changes into this particular thing. So first we will configure the interfaces. So my this interface, okay, of the router, I'm going to configure gigabyte 0/0, and this is serial 030. So there are 2 IP addresses which we are going to configure on this particular router. Say no, enable on 50. So I will go to the gigabyte interface first. Okay, IP address is 172.16.0.100. Subnet mask is class B subnet mask. You have to be very clear here. IP address, correct. Then I said no shut, correct. Then it will become a green. I will come to the serial interface now. Interface serial 030. IP address 10.0.0.1 255.0.0.0. Because it is a class A IP address, I would say no shut. Correct? So I configured these 2 IP address for this router. Let's go to this router. Now here I require 2 serial interfaces and 1 local interface. Okay, so if I go to the command prompt, I would say no, enable conf t, I will check the interface name over here. This is gigabyte. This is serial interface 03, and this would be serial interface 31. Okay, 030031. Okay, so we will assign all the IP address first. So I will say interface gigabyte 0/0. So I'm handling the local side first. IP address is 172.17.0.100.255.255.0.0. Press enter. Type no shut. Remember that, don't forget to put the no shut, otherwise your interface will not come up. Correct? So this is done. I will go back to the serial interface now. Now I'm configuring this side of the serial interface. I would say interface serial 030. IP address would be 10.0.0.2. Subnet mask would be a class A subnet mask, and I would say no shut. Correct? Now on the same router, I do have this interface which is 20.0.0.1. So we should configure that as well. So I would say exit interface serial 0/3/1. IP address would be 20.0.0.1. Subnet mask, once again, it is a class A subnet. Press enter. I would say no shut. Correct? So my this side is also configured. I have not configured anything yet regarding the routing yet. I just configure the interfaces. Correct? Now once again I clicked on this. Now this is my third router. This is the last router where I'm going to configure my interfaces. So I would say enabled. Now this is serial interface 031, and this is 100% gigabyte interface would be there. So this would be my gigabyte 0/0. That's great. So I would go to the conf t interface serial 030. I would say the IP address would be 20.0.0.2. So I will set that IP address 20.0.0.2. Subnet mask would be 255.0.0. Enter. I would say no shut. Correct. I will exit out of it. I would say interface gigabyte 0/0. I would say IP address 172.18.0.100 255.255.0.0. Enter. No shut. So I configured all the interfaces properly on the local side and the WAN side of the router. Now I'm going to create a static routing. Correct? So first I'm going to create a routing on this router to configure here to here. Correct? So my destination network would be 172.17.0.0. Correct? And my next hop would be 10.0.0 in order to reach to this destination. Correct? So let's go to this router and configure the static routing. So I would say IP route. What is my destination? 172.17.0.0. So I'm not supposed to provide IP address. I'm supposed to provide the network ID of that network. What is the subnet mask? It is a class B subnet mask. Correct. And what is the hop count? Hop count or the next hop IP address would be 10.0.0.2. Correct. Press enter. So my this first routing is done. Now on the same router, I would like to do the routing for here to here as well. Correct? Now let's go to the router. Correct? Now what is my destination? 172.18.0.0. This is the network for the destination. So I would say IP route. My destination would be 172.18.0.0. The subnet mask would be 255.255.0.0 because it's a class B. Now what is my next hop? I told you whether you want to connect to this network, your next hop would be this. So your any request which is coming from this router to communicate to this router, he will directly send the communication to this. Now he will take care of it, how he can move to the next router. Correct? So my next hop would be the next interface where I can go inside to the next router. Okay, so that is 10.0.0.2. Okay, so it is once again 10.0.0.2. Done. So I configure two routes over here to reach here, from over here to over here. Correct? Now let's go to the middle route. Okay, now in the middle router, we are going to configure two routes again. Okay, what are those two routes? From here, I should go here, and from here, I should go here. Correct? So I have to configure two routes over here as well. So I will go here and type IP route. This is my destination ID. Destination ID is 172.6.0.0. Destination subnet mask is 255.255.0.0. According to this, what is my next hop? Next hop is nothing but 10.0.0.1. Okay. Similarly, I would like to configure this for this router. I would say IP route 172.18, sorry, .18.0.0, correct? 255.255.0.0, and my next hop would be 20.0.0.2. Enter. Correct. So my this is also done. Now let's take a look at this router. Now this router also needs to be configured. Am I right? For this network, I should communicate with this, and from this network, I should be able to communicate like this. Yes. So we will configure the routes routing over here as well. Correct. So I will do the routing. Exit. I would say IP route. What is my this destination first? My this destination is 172.17.0.0. Correct. The subnet mask ID for the network. And what is my entry point? 20.0.0.1 for this network. Okay, 20.0.0. Correct. Now let's configure from here to here. Correct. So IP route 172.16.0.0, 255.255.0.0. Now once again, to reach to this destination, what would be my next stop? My next stop is this, not this. Remember that in static routing. It's 20.0.0.1. 20.0.0.1. Okay, press enter. Okay, now if I would like to check the IP table or the route table, I will say show IP route. Now I do have all the routes which are available over here. Now you can see these are the rules which we have set for 16 and 17. How they are going to connect? They are going to connect via this particular IP address. Correct? This is very important to understand how it is going to go for it. Now let's check whether are they actually working. Correct? Whether these two computers are able to communicate. So let's go to this computer. Okay. Command prompt, check the IP address. It's 172.18.0. Okay, we will contact with 17.2. Ping 172.17.0.2. Okay, it's pinging. If I contact with 16.1, it should also say pinging. Okay, so I have configured complete static routing without any problem. Correct? So this is called as static routing, where we have more than two networks. In two networks, what would be the next hop? My next router. But people will get confused when we talked about more than that. What would be my next hop count or hop address? That is simply the address which is right next to the router, which you can get inside through. Correct? So this is called as static routing. Now you can remember, while creating a lab also, I need to create these two route, this two route, this two route. Total 6 route I need to create manually. Now any given point of a time, any route filled, and if I would like to go for an alternate route, I need to make sure that that route should be already configured manually first in order to go for a failed failover, or if you are not configured, you have to do it manually. Correct? So this is called as your static routing, where more than 3 networks are available. Okay, you can create this topology. Okay, check how I created this particular topology, how the IP addressing is there. I will give you 10 minutes. Create this topology as well. You can do the configuration later on, no doubt about it, but make sure that you should have a respective topology. So I will give you 10 minutes. Create the topology and assign the IP addresses.
Thanks for watching. Want to study further? Join our training programs today.